Okay, guys, last one. In 6.6, we are multiplying and dividing these complex numbers. So on the front side of the notes yesterday, we talked about trig form of a complex number. And, excuse me, if I go back, that was this form right here, yes, where it's r times cosine theta plus I sine theta. Well, now it's given two of those. How do we multiply them? How do we divide them? So, given z1 is r1 times cosine theta 1 plus I sine theta 1. And z2, which is r2 times cosine theta 2 plus I sine theta 2. Here are the rules for how we go about multiplying and dividing. And it's just that simple. It's just a matter of following the rules. So in order to multiply z1 and z2, out front you're going to multiply r1 and r2. And then in your, where theta goes, you're going to add theta 1 and theta 2 in both cosine and sine. In order to divide z1 and z2, out front you're going to divide r1 and r2. And then in your trig functions where the theta goes, instead of adding, we're going to subtract. Okay, so if z is given as 5 times cosine of 3 pi over 5 plus I sine 3 pi over 5, and w is 7 times cosine of pi over 3 plus I sine pi over 3, then we're being asked to find zw and z over w, or z divided by w. So, let's start off by finding zw. What are we going to do here?
Is it z times or 1 times r2, so 5 times 7.
Okay, are you with us? That basically you're thinking of this as z and w, or z1 and z2. That means 5 and 7 are my r's, so they are my r1, r2. So 5 times 7. And then times
3
right. And then it's theta 1 plus theta 2. So I started to write Q1. Theta 1 is 3 pi over 5, and theta 2 is pi over 3. It's going to be adding those. And then plus I times sine, and it's going to be the same thing. 3 pi over 5 plus pi over 3. And from here, it's just a matter of cleaning it up. Out front, we know that 5 times 7 is 35. Cosine of, what about 3 pi over 5 plus pi over 3?
14 pi over 3.
I agree. You need a common denominator, yes? And so if we look at a common denominator for 5 and 3, that does say 3, I promise, of 15. If you can do it in your head, great. 5 times 3 is 15, so 3 pi times 3 is 9 pi. 3 times 5 is 15, so pi times 5 is 5 pi, so 9 pi over 15 plus 5 pi over 15. So this is cosine of 14 pi over 15 plus I times sine of 14 pi over 15. Now, okay, I don't necessarily remember what homework asked for. Right here, though, what we've just written out, that is our trig form of the number, okay? That is our trig form that we have been looking at of these complex numbers. Now, I also have it written out in terms of decimals. And I have that box, so that makes me wonder if that is what you need in homework. So if we were to write this out in the a plus bi form, That's obviously going to take a calculator, right? So in order to write this out in A plus BI form, one thing is that you're going to have to find the decimal versions of cosine of 14 pi over 15 and sine of 14 pi over 15. And then what else is going to happen? You're going to have to multiply in the 35. And that is if we're going for the A plus BI form. And you guys are going to have it done before I can get ready and get my screen switched over. Are we getting it? Depends on what the right answer is. So what I would just do is I would go ahead and put the 35 in there. Cosine of 14 pi over 15. There's going to be my A value. And I can do the same thing with the sine. Remember, you don't need the I. It's just going to be multiplied in. And so there is my B value. So if I do this to two decimal places. So 35 times cosine of 14 pi over 15 is going to be negative 34.24 plus, and now it's the 35 sine of 14 pi over 15 times I, so I could write that as 7.28 times I. Okay. I would say be able to put it in both forms. In all honesty, I'm probably more concerned that you can get it here in that trig form of r times cosine theta plus I sine theta. I'm more concerned that you can get it in that form in all honesty. The other part was just plugging into the calculator. Okay. And the other half of this problem, the reason I say that we have two problems left, is we are also asked to find Z over W. So what changes up when I'm finding Z over W? We're dividing, so instead of R1 times R2, it's R1 divided by R2, which is going to be 5 over 7. And then cosine, what changes here? You are subtracting instead of adding. So now I'm going to be doing 3 pi over 5 minus pi over 3. Still plus I times sine of the same fraction pieces, 3 pi over 5 minus pi over 3. So keep doing some cleanup. 5/7 is just 5/7. If you clean up inside the parentheses in the theta position, what about 3 pi over 5 minus pi over 3? Yep. Because we're going to take the pieces we had last time, 9 pi over 15 minus 5 pi over 15. And it is indeed 4 pi over 15 plus I times sine of 4 pi over 15. Again, right there is your trigonometric form of a complex number. So depending on what they ask for. And you can also plug that into the calculator, right? This time it's the cosine and sine of 4 pi over 15, and you're multiplying by the 5/7. Your answer matching my answer? They're both decimals around 1/2 if you're getting it correctly. So if we're going for that A plus BI form, what are you guys writing?
0.15.
Okay. So 0.48 plus 0.53i. Okay, guys. Page 503, 1 through 6, and 19 through 26 are the ones you need to do for 6-6 homework.